Well, the first influx of Rohingya refugees from neighbouring Myanmar and now the potential deportation of illegal immigrants from India's northeastern state of Assam. Well, all of it comes as Bangladesh heads into a general election later this year. It is making the ruling Awami League Party anxious. WION's Bangladesh Bureau Chief Saad Hamadi spoke to the chairman of the International Affairs Committee in Bangladesh.
I'm joined by Ambassador Muhammad Zamir, who's also the chairman of the International Affairs Committee of Bangladesh Awami League. Ambassador Zamir, welcome to WION. I'd first like to ask you this question about the election process. Bangladesh is just 1 year away from the next national elections, and the major contention has been a trust deficit among the political parties, for which Awami League itself had called for a non-party caretaker government back in 1996. Explain to me what has changed this scenario that Awami League now wants an election under the Election Commission while it stays in power in Bangladesh.
Well, thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be able to discuss this. Very shortly, we were going to have not 1 year, because we are now on the 6th day of January and we have 359 days left. I expect that by the end of the year, this year, before 359 days are over, we are going to have our next election. Now, you brought up the question of caretaker government. Now, caretaker government as a concept, as a principle, was enunciated by the Awami League way back in 1996. Because we noticed that a lot of things had happened in the election in 1991 which were totally incongruous with democracy. But then subsequently we noticed that even the caretaker government was politicized in the year 2006 when the BNP held power and then they gave up power. Instead of having a neutral caretaker government with a chief advisor, they ended up having their own president as the chief of the caretaker government. And then instead of 90 days by which the election should be held, this new caretaker government came in and stayed on for more than 2 years, almost 2 years and few days. Very wrong approach. And in Bengali, in Khona's adages, it says, if you have a trust deficit in a process which you help to create and you find that it's gone wrong somewhere, then you try to end that dispute by going into a very typical constitutional arrangement, as exists all over the world. So we are going to have an election which will be inclusive. We have shown that happening in the local government, in the concept, recently we had the Rangpur mayor elections, then we had the Kumilla mayoral elections for the corporation, we had the Narayanganj corporation election, we have a new election commission. They are trying their very best, but in order for an election to be held and to be acceptable, there must be transparency, there must be accountability. And this is where, in Bengali we use the word Peshi Shokti, there should not be use of brutal force or use of money. Now, that makes the issue controversial. So the government has said the election commission will undertake all the necessary steps for having the election. We will assist them in whichever way they want us, according to the constitution. So we are looking forward to a proper, acceptable engagement.
And if you could enlighten us about how Awami League views India in its geopolitical ambition.
We are good friends of India. We have strong bilateral relations. We have a constructive engagement in most areas with India. But we are still awaiting some issues to be resolved peacefully and constructively, because we believe in connectivity. One is water management and the question of sharing of the Tista water river. We have solved the question of the maritime boundary. We have solved the question of exchange of enclaves and the land boundary. But we need to also understand that fresh issues can create uncertainty and anger. And one of them is what's happening in Assam. And that is the kind of thing which should be avoided. Because what happened 46, 47 years ago in 1971, or what happened in 1947, is like saying in 1947 people who had left what is now Bangladesh and gone to Calcutta in 1947 to 1901 should be asked to leave West Bengal and come back from where they had gone in Calcutta from Dhaka and come back to Dhaka. This is ridiculous 47 years later. if we do that, then what are we doing with all the migration that's been taking place from India and Bangladesh and South Asia into Europe? I mean, there are people who have left Sylhet and gone to Britain. There are people who have left Pakistan and gone to Britain. The present mayor of London is of Pakistani origin. We have seen how Tulip, who is the granddaughter of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, Bangabandhu, how she has done a wonderful job being a Labour leader. And we have also other Bangladeshi ladies of Bangladeshi origin who have become members of parliament in Britain. We have people of origin from India who have become members of parliament in Britain. So what are we talking about? People who left Dhaka and went to Calcutta in 1947 should be asked to come back? Or people who went to Assam in 1947 should be asked to come back? This is ridiculous. So there must be more constructive engagement, and the people in Assam must understand that by raising the fear of sectarianism, communalism, it doesn't make a constructive engagement in bilateral relations.
There is a repatriation process underway that Myanmar and Bangladesh have jointly agreed with a deal. How confident are you of the repatriation of these 1 million Rohingyas who have been here for decades, and now with this influx, fresh influx of more than 700,000 perhaps?
I have just been there to all the camps. I was there from the 3rd, 4th and 5th, and we have met hundreds of these refugees out of the about 1 million. We have also been to the no man's land near the border. It's painful when we heard them talking about what they had undergone and how many showed scar marks of bullet wounds and burn marks and how they have lost their family and children. Well, they need to go back, and we hope that India and China will assist in the process, because if there is, they must go back with dignity, they must go back with insecurity. And our Prime Minister has already said that the Kofi Annan recommendations in their report, Advisory Council report, should be implemented. So we believe that they should be looked after and given security, because if this instability continues, it will breed vulnerability in terms of terrorist affiliation. And you cannot have the one belt, one road connectivity which China is so keenly interested in if part of that connectivity road is lost in terms of terrorism. So we need to get stability back. Bangladesh has shown the way. We are looking after the refugees in the principle of human rights. The Prime Minister and the government is trying its best. Similarly, at the same time, to feed them, we are importing rice from Myanmar and paying for it from our own pocket. What more can we do? So we expect Myanmar to join this principle of connectivity, reduce tension, and have a constructive engagement, because after all, they are member of the BICM initiative, the Look East policy with Kunming and Bangladesh, India, China, Myanmar. They are also a member of BIMSTEC, and the BIMSTEC headquarters is in Dhaka. So we are hopeful that the Myanmar leadership, the civilian leadership and the armed forces leadership will realize that the days of being able to survive by yourself in isolation is over. This is an era where countries need to depend on each other for a constructive movement forward.